Hey guys, it's great to see you. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas around here. We've got the tree up and the lights and the poinsettias that you can see behind me. But today's episode of For the Boys isn't about Christmas at all. Maybe someday we'll find something about Christmas to talk about. But today I want to talk to you about war ration books. And I found this bundle of World War II ration books in a box in storage that I just uncovered a couple of days ago when Dad and I were taking some things over to storage, and we were looking for some things and we were bringing some things back. And in this box were many things, small artifacts like this that I think deserve a story, at least a short one, so that you know what it is and kind of the history behind it. So today we're going to be talking about the World War II war ration books that I found. And you can see that there's this little bundle. They're wrapped in a red bow, and I have a feeling I know who wrapped them, probably my great-grandmother, Eva Stats. But this really isn't about the Stats family so much. It really is about the ration books themselves and what they are and who they served and maybe why somebody chose to keep them. So while I have you here, I'm going to go ahead and unwrap this really for the first time, and so that we can see what we have. And then I'll go into a little bit more detail about the ration books themselves, why they were manufactured, who used them, and for what. All right, so I'm going to unseal this. I can see at the top, let me just take this bow off first. I really don't want to undo the tie. But it's on there just tight enough that it's going to be a little bit difficult to take off. There we go. There we go. All right. So this bundle, as you can see, there are several of these books in here, and I'm going to count the books first. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 books. We have 11 books here. And so the top of them, and I'll take pictures of these so that we can show them, but we have the War Ration Book 1. So this is for my grandfather, Harold Stats Cook. And this is, I don't see a date on here, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So there are a number of War Ration Books 1, and then we have War Ration Book 2, and here's 3, and here's 4, here's another 3, and here's another 4. All right. So we've got basically for my grandfather and his mother, Eva, and his stepfather, Wilbert Pierce. And it looks like there might be one for Douglas Pierce, who is Wilbert's son from his first marriage. So there are 4 War Ration Book 1. There are 3 for Douglas, Wilbert, and Eva for War Ration Book 2. War Ration Book 3 for Eva and Wilbert, and War Ration Book 4 for Eva and Wilbert. So we're going to take another look at this, and we'll be able to talk a little bit more about when they came out and what they were used for. Before we get into the books themselves, I want to go and do a little bit of research on the ration books. According to this source, which is the University of Delaware, Arts and Sciences History, war ration books were produced by the United States Office of Price Administration in 1942, when the United States officially entered the Second World War. Shortages of essential war materials such as rubber, gasoline, and sugar were initially anticipated, but soon rationing grew to include food as well as fuel and sugar. Most commodities were removed from rationing by the end of 1945. The exception was sugar, which continued to be rationed into 1947. So these books, again, we've got books 1, books 2, books 3 and books 4, so that probably means that it spanned a number of years and helped this family, our family, survive during World War II. As I said, we have 4 of the War Ration Book 1, and you might be able to read this a little bit, but there are some pretty harsh warnings on here that you can get as much as 10 years imprisonment or $10,000 fine or both if you violate any of the rules of the rationing orders and regulations. Book cannot be transferred in the event of departure from the United States or the person's death. The book must be surrendered in accordance with the regulation, and any person finding a lost book must deliver it promptly to the nearest ration board. And you can see at the bottom, it's the Office of Price Administration. So this is the front of the Book 1 ration. And you can see that this one is registered to my grandfather, Harold S. Cook. And it gives, some information. It gives some physical information about him. So it looks like almost like a voter registration where you had to go to a certain place, a local board in Wayne County, Indiana. Okay, and then he has to sign some things here, but there's not a date that I can see, but we know, I think, that this was in 1942. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. The second one here was given to Wilbert Pierce, who is Harold Cook's stepfather, Eva Cook's second husband. Okay, we had the same thing. I wonder what kind of identification you had to show in order to get these. This is for Douglas Pierce. Come on, pick it up. And you can see these different stamps that are in here. There's War Ration Stamp 22, 2019. Okay. And this one is for Eva Pierce, who is my great-grandmother, your great-great-grandmother. So again, most of the stamps are out of these. Only a couple remain. Okay. We kind of do the same thing for the War Ration Books 2. I don't really know what the difference is, but we'll figure that out. Still some of the same warnings. We can see that this is for Wilbert Pierce, Office of Price Administration. There's a serial number on it. He got it in Richmond, Indiana. Okay, but this time there are some stamps in here, 8, 5, 2, and 1. Maybe we'll figure out what those are. The instructions. This book is valuable. Do not lose it. For Eva Pierce. And for Douglas Pierce. It's not like he was a child. He's 37 here too. So this is, these are the adults that are getting it. Book 3. I wonder about kids, if kids got them as well. Although this says book 4 down here, but Wilbert Pierce. Ooh, lots of little stamps in here. It doesn't appear that many were taken out. Oh, many pages of stamps. Maybe one page was. You can see, well, maybe a couple pages of stamps were used. Got Eva Pierce here too. Maybe she used a little bit more of her stamps. And then War Ration Book 4, Eva Pierce. And still different kinds of stamps. Some are used, some not. These are great also for me once I can figure out the dates, where they lived at the time as well. Okay, and signatures. I love signatures. These are not very big books. They're like postcard size, but they are in incredible condition. Never buy ration goods without ration stamps. Never pay more than the legal price. All right, let's learn a little bit more about each of these. Let's take a little bit of a closer look at the War Ration Book 1. I do have some information here on this website, and it says issued to the public May 4th through May 7th, 1942. So we know now when this was received by Harold, Eva, Wilbert, and Douglas in Wayne County. Of the 180 million printed, 123 million were issued. Initially used to ration sugar, coupons were later designated for other products. Stamps 1 through 4 were designated for sugar. We don't have 1 through 4 in here. Each stamp was worth 1 pound of sugar and was given a designated 2-week period during which it must be used. Stamps 5 and 6, 2 pounds of sugar each and valid for a 4-week period. Stamp 7, consumer bonus of 2 pounds of sugar for use between July 10th and August 22nd, 1942. Stamp 13, 5 pounds of sugar for 2 2/3 months expiring on August 15th, 1943. Stamp 14, 5 pounds of sugar for 2.5 months, August 16th through November 1st, 1943. Stamps 15 and 16, validated for 5 pounds of sugar each for home canning. Stamp 17, designated for a pair of shoes. Stamp 18, 1 pair of shoes between June 16th and August 31st, 1943. Stamps 19 through 28, designated as coffee stamps, valid for 1 pound of coffee each for 5 weeks. All right, so that's a lot of information, and we can see that it's not just for food, that, later on, you could get shoes and maybe some other kinds of clothing. It seems like sugar is the central food here. Later on, it looks like coffee. Of these 4, I think all of them have stamp 22, 20, and 19 left, and it looks like those are all the coffee stamps, valid for 1 pound of coffee each for 5 weeks. So maybe they just weren't coffee drinkers. I don't know. Let's move on to book 2. And I think I have to change my website here because for some reason that website did not talk about War Ration book number 2. But this is what it looks like here. And we have Eva's, Douglas's, and Wilbert's. And let's see. We only have 1 page of coupons or stamps for 8, 5, 2, and 1. Let's see what these are all about. I have to make this bigger so I can see. Ration became a way of life for people in the home front during World War II from 1941 to 1945, affecting everything from the quantity and type of food people ate to the clothes they wore. Rationing issued that each person could get his fair share of the products and food goods that were in short supply due to the war effort and import reductions. 4 different ration books were used during World War II. Ration Book 2 contained red and blue stamps. We only have blue stamps in here. Numbered A through Z. There are letters on here. MLK. Each with different ration point designations. The red stamps were for butter, margarine, meats, cheeses, fats, and canned fish. Okay, the red stamps were for canned fruits and vegetables. When book 2 was for, they both say red stamps, so I don't know. Our red stamps are gone. We only have blue stamps, so it doesn't really say anything. When book 2 was first issued, each household was required to itemize and declare all their canned goods. Stamps were removed from the ration books for the canned goods they already had on hand. Now, isn't that interesting? So I wish this gave us a little bit better description because I think there was a miscalculation in here, a typo, because it talked about red stamps both times. It doesn't talk about blue stamps, but you can see there's more of a variety of foods that they're talking about here. And many of these stamps are gone. I know that Eva was great about canning food, so maybe she got kind of penalized and stamps taken away because she already had food in her house. All right, let's talk about ration book number 3. And we've got a couple here, although these both for Wilbert and for Eva say book 4 on them as well. So I don't know, maybe there was some sort of carryover. But let's hear what it says about ration book 3. Distributed May 20th, 1943, the coupons used for food and other commodities. War ration book number 3, valid on September 1943, included 8 pages of stamps, 4 for meat rationing and 4 for a clothing rationing program never put into effect. Some clothing stamps were eventually validated for shoe rationing. So again, by the time that the war is carrying on for years and years, there is more rationing. And so I don't know what these little stamps are for, but then there's some bigger stamps like this as well that have the letters on them and the numbers again. So that's 3. And quickly, let's go into 4. Okay, we have Wilbert and Eva again. Distributed late 1943, the coupons used for food and other commodities, stamps used on the point system. Okay, and so here's what they look like here. Not very many of these are used, at least in this book, I don't think. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. Different colored stamps, different letters, different numbers. Probably still a little bit more research to be done. But it is truly amazing that we have these things, and it gives us a little bit of insight into what life was like during the war. I love artifacts like this. Things that you can touch, that you can smell. It just smells old, but it's in immaculate condition. And these are the kinds of things that, while I can't really point too much to the family tree, although we know who these people are, but these are the kinds of things that bring history to life. I mean, how else are you going to try to understand what it was like to live in the United States, live in rural Indiana during World War II? What was life like? I mean, most of our family were farmers, but even Eva and Wilbert started to move towards the city during the war years, and life was not necessarily that easy. And so even your great-grandfather, my grandfather, Harold Cook, used these books to help have what they needed. It may not seem like a huge thing, but when a country is at war like that, then everybody has got to pitch in and either help in the war effort by going to the factories and helping to make things for the soldiers and the war effort directly, or they have to ration. They have to hold back what they are using because the soldiers overseas needed it. So for a couple of years, life was not all that easy, and rationing was something that everybody had to do. And these books right here that I'm holding in my hand, and maybe someday you guys are going to hold in your hand, is the tangible, is what can help you understand what life was like. That's it's not even 100 years ago, but it's about 80 years ago. So I hope that you enjoyed this short little for the boys to get some details about these things. Of course, there's always research to be done, but I am so very thankful that Eva Stats, wrapped these up in the red bow. I'm going to put that back on and put it away for future generations to be able to see and to learn from, because they're very valuable lessons to learn from this. Okay, guys, I love you so much. I love this picture. Look how little Liam is at that point in time. I don't know when this is, probably 2015, I'm going to say, maybe 7 years ago. But I love that picture, and I love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.